Hey guys, visit our Patreon. That's patreon.com/allagesofgeek.
Hey everybody, welcome. This is Muhsin here with All Ages of Geek. If you guys are listening, we are also showcasing this on the Geekening podcast. Hope you guys are really into anime, especially on Netflix. We recently just got a show called Blood of Zeus that just came out, and we are actually here to chat with the showrunners from the series. Vlas, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and couldn't be more excited being a geek myself, my brother too, and so just thank you for taking the time. We really appreciate it.
So tell me, what drew you to creating the series for Netflix?
Well, we always loved Greek mythology. Greek mythology, the stories, those were some of the stories, the first stories we ever heard. They were told to us by our grandmother and our mother, and they were very good at telling them in a way that brought about a certain sense of excitement. There was that wonderment when we heard those stories. And they were astute in that they would always end the story with a cliffhanger. And they would basically say, well, if you want to hear the rest of the story, you better be good the next day. So that actually worked. And it also, we're all shaped by experiences. And so what it did was when the time came to write the episodes of Blood of Zeus, we try to bring about, or we hope that we could write something that brought about that same type of wonderment to the reader. And then we were hoping that would happen with the show, that same type of excitement. And we would end with a cliffhanger, hoping that they would want to come back for a second episode. The way it started, to specifically answer your question, was that we had a general with John Dodarian at Netflix. He is the head of their anime Japan, and he had asked us if we had anything that would work in the space, and we had told him we had this idea, and we pitched him the idea. He really liked it, and then so we wrote him, I think it was about 15 pages of what was that first episode. He read them, he really liked them, and then he sat us down and he said, listen, if you write the pilot and a Bible, and if I like it, not only will I buy it, but I can guarantee you that I'll make it. So we looked at each other and we said, you know what, if we don't do this, if we don't try this, then we should just turn in our WGA cards. So we sat down, we wrote the pilot, we did the Bible, we gave it to John, and true to his word, he actually went ahead and he bought it and he made it. And what I would also just want to add here was that at that time, you know, it almost seems like now with the success of the show and how it's been very well received, that it was a no-brainer. But at that time, it was a big deal for John to greenlight the show. Nothing like this had ever been done. Most often the shows that are made into animes are based off of big IP, like Castlevania. Greek mythology has an awareness, but it does not have a big IP. So the fact that he took the fact that he had the guts to greenlight our show is something that will be we're very grateful for him for doing that, and for having the foresight that there would be an audience for it.
And how connected were you with the series? Because I know from your background, you were very well versed into the Greek mythology. You and your brother also got to work in Immortals, which also kind of tackles that as well.
Yeah.
Was that something that you always wanted to visit when you were working on the animated series?
Yes. So regarding the show, this show, Blood of Zeus, for us is a very personal show, even more personal than what Immortals was. In film, the director is king. It's a director-driven medium, so they have final say, and as they should. They basically say, this is kind of what I want the story to be, and then you're servicing their vision. And so we had a great working experience with Tarzan. He's a beautiful man and really loved that whole creative process. It reached a point, though, where two other writers came in and we were rewritten. And there were certain things that I absolutely love about the film. And then there's other things that you wish that, I wish we could have done this, that, the other thing. And even Tarzan, there was a moment in the process where we were flying up to Canada to the set, and we mentioned to him, you know what, like Henry's arc, we could use these 4 scenes right here because he seems to be angry the whole way through. And Tarzan was like, oh my goodness, you know, Henry's been telling me that you know he's been having this very same concern. Tarzan was on board for those changes to be made, but Relativity, the studio that was financing at that point, said no, the script is locked. And so that was an experience that we learned from. And when it came to write Blood of Zeus, we just wanted to make sure that we had that arc for our main character. And the reason Blood of Zeus is, I would say, even a little more personal is that we're children of immigrants. We grew up, we saw our parents ostracized. They were made fun of for their accent. We were the kids that brought in the spanakopita for lunch, and people would look at it and it smelled awful. And they're like, you know, we were made to feel as if we were different and weird. So even though you may look at us, no, we felt like we were outsiders, even though we may not look like outsiders, but we felt that. And so when it came to write Heron, he's the quintessential outcast. He's the bastard. He's the one that's made to feel less and minimalized. And so that really was something that we wanted to explore. And that was something that was very personal to us. And then to see that individual deal with the anger that comes about from that, and how he handles that anger. Heron is finally able to let go of that anger. And in doing so, he becomes the best version of himself. So there's an arc there.
You were mentioning about the connection and the message that it brings.
Yes.
I feel like it does that too. Like when you see Heron on screen and seeing all that anger come out of him, but then, you know, just listening to his father, like, telling him that he has to let that anger go.
Exactly. You know, we're all shaped by experience. And I think, you know, Spielberg, you know, said it when he said, there's always a part of him that's in whatever movie he makes. And I feel that's true for a writer. You're a writer, you know what that's like. For all writers, I feel that who you are, to a certain extent, makes its way into the story in some capacity. You know, something that you experience, something that you're experiencing in the moment you're writing the episodes, or if it was a past experience. We're all shaped by experiences. And that's why even when writers ask us for advice, we're like, go out and live, have experiences, share experiences. So there was the very personal component, and then there's the family component. You know, the family component between the gods is a big one, and having, like, a lack of a better way, that soap element was something that we also wanted to delve into. And more specifically, going back to theme, we wanted to explore anger in 3 different characters. Heron, he has anger. He is able to let go of his anger, and he becomes the best version of himself. Seraphim has anger. He's unable to let go of his anger, and that becomes his downfall. Hera has anger, and then it pushes her too far. She goes, oh my God, what have I done? And she's forever changed. So those were the 3 characters we explored anger with. And that was a theme, again, that we wanted to explore.
So going with the Greek gods and goddesses, how did you determine the personalities that would go into these characters? You know, especially when you do all this background research with each of these deities. Like, how did you tackle that?
You know, there's a couple of things. We always say that this is not our story. This is Greece's story. Because truthfully, we're using a lot of the tropes and archetypes that are well established in the Greek mythological canon. And part of it is we just tried to take from the stories that existed, just take little tidbits and nuggets from it. So it's true, you know, Zeus had many bastard children. But one thing that, you know, we always just thought is interesting is that when you break down the stories, you look at it, he was raised in what we would consider a single parent household now. He was raised by his grandmother. He didn't know his father. He had to kill his father. You know, there were, in a lot of ways he was great, but he also had lots of failings. And maybe we can show just kind of a more interesting kind of version of that instead of just being this terrible guy. Because there are times like when Typhon attacked Olympus, he was the only one that stood back and fought. Everyone else ran. And there are times where Hera said, like, part of it is that she was supportive because he was great, especially when they drew lots. So you just take little clues from the stories. Another example, we always kind of say that everything in our story happens kind of post-mythology. So everything you've read has already occurred. But one thing that really kind of struck us is that when, when Ares gets caught in bed with Hephaestus's wife,
Aphrodite.
My name's blanking. Aphrodite. Yeah, and he throws a net on them. They said that Apollo and Hermes were kind of like, laughing at him and making fun of him. And we just thought that was like a very brotherly kind of thing. So right away, you kind of take that story and say, like, well, we had, there's another brother. We had that dynamic. And how do brothers interact with each other? And you fight and you get along. And our dad used to tell us to stop wrestling in the house and, yell at us to cut it out. But all of that, you use those as clues to kind of give you some insight to humanize them. Because again, while they're deities, as Vlas said, it's not the Judeo-Christian deity where they're all-knowing and all-powerful and perfect. They're flawed. They're anthropomorphic. They have human qualities. So we tried to kind of take the little clues in the stories that exist to create what we feel are the relationships that they had, and then we're obviously putting our own spin on it as well, if that makes any sense. And
it makes them relatable. That's one thing I'll add. I know that was kind of we gave you a long answer there, but they're very relatable, and that is helpful because I think for viewers, they can see some of themselves in some of these characters. And, I think all of us struggle to be the best versions of ourselves. And I think all of us oftentimes fall. And we have to just pick ourselves back up. And so I think when they see them, when audiences see themselves in the characters, in the gods, and even in the main characters, I think it helps. And I think that's been part of the appeal of the show.
I do want to talk about this amazing cast that you guys put together. We have like a who's who of like bunch of voice actors, especially. We have Jason O'Mara as Zeus. We also have Jessica Henwick as Alexia. Hope you guys know from the Iron Fist series. Matthew Mercer, who's also pretty big in the voice acting industry. Like, how do you guys got all these groups of people together to work on this show? Like how was that all set up?
Meredith Lane was the casting director, and she just did a fantastic job of bringing these amazingly talented actors, to our attention. And, so I just got to give her credit. She did a fantastic job. And then the actors did just a fantastic job with the material. We feel that they elevated the material. Again, the mandate with them too was treat this as a movie, bring that emotional truth to the work. And a lot of them were theater actors. So they really were able to bring their characters to life in a way that I think really helped the performances resonate. Again, all of them brought that emotional truth, to their work. And that's kind of what we always strive for is to bring something about that bring a story about that has emotional truth. And then again, a story that hopefully moves us in some way, whether it makes us laugh, whether it makes us cry, whether it inspires us in some ways. That's what you always hope for. And we just feel very lucky that we were able to work with the cast, that we got, because they really did a fantastic job. I feel, with Hera in particular, Claudia Christian just, again, elevated the material. She brought something to the role, something that maybe was not even there on the page, because she really understood her character and did the hard work. And, Charley and I talk about this all the time too. They don't have a lot of time to prepare, and they're not oftentimes, working off of each other. Sometimes they have to just read their lines off of someone else that's just giving them the other actor's lines. So what they do is truly remarkable, and I just give them a lot of credit, and we're just very grateful that we got to work with all of them.
It was amazing. I've never been more impressed by a group of actors than this group, because they walk in, boom, they're on point. They get direction, they change the performance, they're making bold decisions, they're making great choices. They were so good. It was like an acting clinic. And I have to give credit, as Vlas mentioned, to Meredith Lane, because she basically was the one that kind of focus in on all of these actors, because even, Sean, our director, who's been doing animation for 20 years, there were a few people that, he had, said like, hey, what about this person? And, animation still here sometimes doesn't get the respect it deserves. Like Meredith would say, I reached out to the reps and they didn't respond. And like part of it is like, these are real parts and these are fun parts to play. But I think sometimes some people kind of view this not as elevated as, other genres. But thankfully, like we got an amazing cast. All of them came to work and brought their A game. And I think, again, just like Sean brought his A game, they brought their A game. Paul, our composer, brought his A game, and everyone keeps plussing it. It just keeps getting better and better, and that's how you make a show either good or it can go the other way. Everyone has to really be wanting to give their best, and sometimes that happens, and sometimes it doesn't. And with animation, you are building it little by little. It's not like physical production where you just show up and there's a set and you film and there it is, and then that's the raw material. Because basically what you're doing here is that there's a complete blank page. And Sean has to take our script and we have to talk about how we stage it and what the location is and what the characters are doing. And then the actors, they record, and then that might change how we boarded this and how we're going to have the scene play out. And so everyone is slowly helping build and push the rock up the hill. It's a very different process than, say, live action. And so it was just great to see all these amazing people contribute and keep adding to it. And it was a really fun process. We loved it.
I just want to say, have you guys thought about, a possible season 2 or, even beyond, like where the show might go? Like, have you guys started bouncing around some ideas on where this might go?
I told him we're crazy, bro, and that we're like, again, nerds, and we're always thinking, like we've thought about a whole bunch of things. We have to wait and see if we're going to be given a season 2. Netflix will let us know. But, we have probably too many ideas, to be honest with you. Curious what Charlie has to say.
No, I mean, again, we're very grateful to Netflix. Our show, Greek mythology is kind of, IP, but it is public domain, but we're not some big property, and they rolled the dice on us. So we're very appreciative. They've only committed to 1 season. We hope that they'll order a 2nd season. We think audiences have embraced the show. Because Vlas and I probably are crazy and our manager told us not to do it, we still did it. We wrote like a 25-page outline for the 2nd season and where the show would go. But that was just because we had we had a couple weeks between jobs, and we just decided to sit down and do it. And we love this story, and we have lots of ideas. And
we're passionate
whether we get to tell it will depend on the audience.
Listen, it all comes down to passion, doesn't it? At the end of the day, whatever you're doing, I think that if that's the one common ingredient that people, it starts with passion. And because we're so passionate, we did write those 25 pages, and then we would probably write another 25. For us, again, passion, it's something we're passionate about. The good thing about passion too is that it's contagious. And so when other people see that, they know when it's genuine and when it's manufactured. When it's genuine, they get excited too. And then when they get excited, then they get other people excited. And it's kind of like it seems to snowball in many ways, or at least that's what happened on season 1. So hope we're afforded a 2nd season, and hope the passion continues, and hope the passion continues to snowball.
And there's 3 or 4 shots that are in there season 1 because they're meant to be little setups. And things we're going to see more of if we get a season 2. But again, we're very grateful that they just made the show, and then they have their process. And to be honest, it's a very fair process. You need a certain amount of views, and either that shows that there's the demand to see more of the show or not. And that's all you can ask for. You know what I mean? It's a true meritocracy. Either enough people will tune in for them to order another season, or they won't.
It's show business.
That's all there is to it. Well, I am crossing my fingers for a season 2, and I hope everyone gets to watch the show. It is amazing. You guys can watch this on Netflix right now. Thank you so much, Charlie and Vlas, for joining us.
Thank you, fans.
Yeah, thank you for also covering the show, because you know what? We still feel sometimes like with animation and anime, Like, we're almost like how people used to think of like Star Trek fans 25 years ago. They're like, oh, you put on a uniform and you go to a convention? Like, what are you talking about? But I think the fan base is much bigger than what the town, at least what Hollywood realizes. And I think more people are into kind of this more adult-oriented, animation than people in our business realize. And I think that Netflix is really kind of kicking that door open with Castlevania and our show. And then you have Kevin Smith's He-Man show, and Zack Snyder, director of 300 and Watchmen, he's doing a Norse mythology show, which is going to come out as well. Derek Kolstad, the writer of John Wick 1, 2, and 3, he has an anime show that's going to come out on Netflix. So I think that this is coming more into the mainstream, or at least Netflix is trying to. And I think they'll be rewarded for it. I think there is genuinely an audience for it, even if other executives or producers in our business still view this as niche. We think it's more popular than they realize. So we appreciate you shining a light on the show and on the genre.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you guys so much. Hope you guys get to tune into Geeking podcast. We'll have those episodes up soon. But other than that, thank you so much. And you guys, we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you. Our pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Head over to allagesofgeek.com and don't forget to check out the playlists pinned in the comments.